Morning, everybody. Time for another review. What's it going to be this time? Well, once I get my shit all straightened out here, it's going to be cool. It is, bear with me a moment. It's going to be a new Swiss tool. And it was suggested to me to try the Swiss Tool MX Clip. And I watched a bunch of videos on those, and honestly, I didn't like it. I didn't like the some of the feedback that I saw on it. So we'll go through why I went with this one. What is this one? Spirit X. Just went with the Spirit X. So I have reviewed a couple of these other tools. We got the Roxon, the 803 Elite or something like that. I got the Gerber version of one of theirs, $30 Chinese-made ones. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to try the Victorinox. So let's open it up. Let's check it out, see what we like, maybe what we don't like. Just a box. Got a card. We got a, seems to be like an actual leather sheath using Velcro, but it is leather. I don't think it's pleather. No, it looks like it's actually leather. And this is the Spirit X. So already thin. It's a little bit smaller. Size-wise, before we even get into the tool sets and all that, let's do a size check, size comparison. What do I have in my pocket today? I've got my pretty much bone stock Swiss Champ, the only addition being a ferro rod. So it's taller, but it's thinner this way, and it's flatter. It sits nice, doesn't have any bumps. So this probably will slide into the pocket, even though it's a tiny bit longer. It is thinner in this direction, and it's actually slightly thinner across. So that should fit in the pocket nice, and they're about the same weight. It's like around 7 point something ounces. This is around 7 ounces. They are all, this one's at the lower end of 7 ounces. This is at the heavier end, but they're all in that 7 ounce range. So weight-wise, pretty good. It is really thin. I do like that. That's going to sit in the pocket really well. It is kind of slick. It doesn't have any texture like this does, or this one, but I think that's going to add to the comfort. So what kind of tool set? Well, first and foremost, pair of pliers. So this one doesn't have a spring. So let's open up these other ones here, compare. So if you want one with a spring, this won't be it. The Roxon, I believe, also has a spring. And the spring is kind of handy, I will say. But like the pliers I have in my garage don't have spring. My channel locks don't have springs. You just use it like a regular pair. I don't know. It seems nice to me. I'm like, well, it's one more thing to break. I will say that this is very floppy and smooth, but it doesn't have a lot of wiggle in it. So that's pretty good. It feels sturdy. There's only the tiniest bit of play in that joint. This actually has none that I can feel there. The play it has is here. As far as in the joints, I think I can feel it a little bit. But it doesn't, it locks up solid this way, which is the important one. So I feel it up here just a little bit, but it doesn't seem to translate to wobbly handles. So it is very comfortable. I will say, when you grip this, you've got some not hard, sharp edges, but it doesn't feel as good. There's definitely the clip sticks into your hand a little bit, so maybe you want to use it this way, but even then now your finger's hitting it. This one is a bit smoother, and they did a better job on the clip here, but the handles are a bit bulky. This to me feels more like a normal set of pliers, honestly. The locks that we'll get into here are just nubbins, and they're out of the way. They have grip and traction, but they don't stick out into you. But this feels good. As a pair of pliers, it feels good. I will say it does take a good bit of effort, and I'm hoping that'll break in a little bit to open it, but it's rock solid, and maybe that's what keeps it from wobbling. I don't know. Feels good, though. So let's go into the tool sets. Oh, on the pliers, they seem well made. And apparently they did something with the hardening here where, I don't know if you could see that, but there's a little nubbin. Forward of the nubbin is for cutting like copper wire and softer type things. If you had to cut like a coat hanger or something that's a little bit more harder, maybe steel, then you use the part that's closest to the pivot. So you will want to be careful with that. And the thing with these is that they are not replaceable. You know, if you mangle those up and the wire cutters no longer function as wire cutters, the only way to fix that issue would be to replace the whole tool for 150 bucks. So just understand that it does have limits. If you try to cut steel with the forward part, cutting a small chain link, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of something what you would use it for, what could be beyond its design parameters. If it's hard, use it close to the base. You also get more leverage there, so you'd want to do that anyway. But that's the only thing I think that you really need to be mindful of, as opposed to the Roxon, which comes with carbide blades that are replaceable, and they give you a spare set, which is kind of cool, at a third of the price. Back to the Victorinox. Let's close it up. Like I said, it does take a little more effort to click it together, but when you do, it's got almost no play, so it does feel good that way. All the tools that you would use other than the pliers are all outward facing, so you don't have to open it up to do anything. What are those tools? Well, you've got a full file with a hacksaw blade, and it feels pretty sharp. So you've got a hardened steel. Because it is hardened steel, you want to be careful. Don't ever use this one from Brian. You will snap that right off. But it locks open, and you've got a metal file that's pretty damn aggressive, and then you've got a hacksaw blade. When you want to activate the locks, you just pull those nubbins down, and it'll retract. You have a screwdriver with some kind of hook thing. Don't know what that's for, but you got a basic Phillips screwdriver that also locks in that position, should work real well. You will also have your standard Victorinox style can opener with small screwdriver tip. Also locks open. You see the theme here. On this one, you have a pair of scissors. Now it is a little bit different from the normal Victorinox. Victorinox, you tend to have that spring there. This one, it's got a spring back here. I don't know if that's a stronger design. Although it does look, well, you wouldn't be able to replace it. I say that would be the one benefit here, is you can drive that out with a punch and you can replace the springs. They do sell those. These, because it's riveted together, I don't see how you could do that. So if you did manage to break it, that would be a difference there. You wouldn't be able to fix that. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, unlock it. And then there was another tool in here, and that is a small fine screwdriver, again with some kind of hook. I don't know what these hooks are for, but you've got another fine screwdriver on that side. Go over to the other side. What tools have you got? Well, you've got a wood saw, and it's done properly the way Victorinox does, where this side of the blade is wider than the back side. This side's cutting, and as you cut in, it creates a slightly wider channel than the back part of this, so that the wood isn't pressing as much on this, causing friction. That's actually a very clever design. When you're sawing through something, create the channel where the cutting teeth are that will be slightly wider than the rest of the knife that has to then drag through the wood, reducing that friction, making it easier to saw. Very clever, Victorinox. I don't know that they invented it, but they're certainly doing it that way. You've got another hook here. I guess you could grab and hook something. Again, they love hooks on these things. But then you've got basically a scraper / awl to bore a hole in something. You have a can opener. I'm sorry, that one's a bottle opener, wire stripper with a large flathead that again locks up really secure. There's no wiggle in that. So you got a nice sturdy screwdriver. After that, you have, I guess this is like some kind of a wire cutter. There's a little fine point. That is actually really sharp. It's like a scalpel. So if you just need to do simple draw cuts without cutting deeply into something, so you're clipping coupons, I don't know, you're just doing quick little cuts where you don't want to go too deep into something. It's not a very tall blade. You can do that, use that sort of pinpoint precision of that hard point. You've also got, I guess they borrowed this almost from the electrician A-Lock series, where you've got the ability to, put a piece of wire in there and then revolve it around it or something, and it'll cut the sheathing of the wire so you can strip the wire. And then last, we've got an actual knife blade. So I do want to compare those to the others because for me to carry this as an EDC, it's got to be a decent knife. I'm looking for knife first and then pliers and other tools second. So we'll pull out the D2 steel blade on the Roxon, and then we got the Gerber. So what you're going to find is it's in between. The Gerber is a multi-tool that has a crappy little knife. You know, will it open a box and stuff? Yeah, but I don't have a lot of faith in that this is decent steel. The edge is kind of it's not big enough. It's partially serrated. It'll work in a pinch in an emergency situation, but this is a multi-tool first, knife second, and it's got a whole bunch of wobble in it, and it's what you think you'd get for 29 bucks. The Roxon steps it up, and it has a little bit of wiggle, but not as much, but it actually has a locking, single hand opening, single hand closing D2 blade, and it's a big, fairly serious blade. The downside of this is that handle's really super chunky, and there's a little bit of a hot spot there, but not much. And it wiggles a little bit in your hand. It does move around, but you have like a pretty beefy blade that you could do some cutting. This is going to be, the Victorinox is going to be more like your classic Victorinox Swiss Army knives. It's going to be a slightly longer blade, but it is also, actually it's not even that much longer. It's a slightly different shape, and it has a curve to it to conform with the handle shape here. But you're basically getting this similar kind of blade, only slightly thicker, that you're getting, you know, on a Swiss Champ or something. That being said, it's very, very sharp. It has decent action. It is two-handed opening. You got your thumbnail down in there to open it, but it does lock up really nice and securely. And I would say more so than a lot of the Victorinoxes that use that really flimsy liner lock. It'll do in a pinch, but I don't know how much pressure it would really take to break that lock. This does seem to be a more robust lock, the way that it locks in like that. And it is very comfortable. The shape of this handle does kind of conform. You don't need a finger guard because it gets wider. So if you're gripping it tightly, as your hand slides up, it gives you more and more resistance, and it kind of stops moving. While it is very polished and looks nice, it is a fingerprint freaking magnet, as opposed to that not being one, as opposed to that not really being one. Those are a matte finish. So that is the price you pay for having something nice and shiny and clean, is it is going to show every fingerprint from a mile away. But it is very comfortable, and it has more traction than you think it would have. That actually feels good. And I think sitting here cutting with that would be a much more enjoyable experience. If you had to do a bunch of cutting, this handle feels better than all of them. It feels better than this, honestly, because this is very wide. And if you were cutting, it just... Your handle wants to be this way. The length of the width of the handle wants to go to this part, not here. And you're kind of gripping it in a weird fist. It's not as ergonomic. It'll work. You got all your tools, you put up with it. But this is actually more like a traditional handle. It follows the contours of your hands. And I feel like I could cut with this a lot longer before my hand starts to get cramped from gripping it weird. It's really nice. I'm going to EDC this. I'm not going to bother using the holster, you know, because I've already got a gun on that side, so I don't need two holsters sitting on my belt. But for something that just falls in the pocket, that gives you a nice sturdy pair of pliers, it's Victorinox. It's good stainless steel. You know, the blade, probably the edge won't last quite as long as something like maybe the D2 or some other tools out there that are using S30V or something like that. I've seen some of the Leathermans using upgraded steels. I've seen one with Magna Cut. But it is easy to sharpen, you know. So as an everyday tool, you know, I think this will work out really nice. I like the fact that it's got all the basics covered. You got files, saws, screwdrivers, can openers, bottle openers, wire strippers. You got a pair of scissors. You have a very serviceable blade that's comparable to what I'd be carrying in this, but it locks as opposed to this not locking. So that's already, I think, a step up when it comes to EDC. You know, some people won't like the size and weight, but honestly, if you don't like the size and weight, you're probably not carrying a Swiss Champ anyway. This is going to sit flatter in my pocket. It's only marginally taller. It is, I mean, it's 3/4 of an inch longer, but it's slimmer and flatter and more comfortable in every other direction. So the blade is comparable. The screwdriver is comparable. I mean, on this one, you got a short, stubby little Phillips screwdriver. Well, you got basically the same screwdriver. It's just a little bit longer, and it locks. So I think that's a huge advantage. I feel like of the tools, and I haven't tried some of the Leathermans. I haven't tried the new $250 Arc and stuff like that. But I got a lot of Swiss Army knives. I've been playing with some of these. This one, I think for, if you only want to spend $50, you need to buy this one. This is a fantastic tool with replaceable blades that they give you, and they give you the damn Torx bit to take them out. If you only want to spend $50, go with the Roxon. I think it's a tremendous buy. It sits pretty. It's a good size. That's more comparable to the Swiss Champ, but it gives you a nice set of pliers and stuff, and a pretty decent tool set. And this one comes with a ferro rod and a whistle and some other cool things. This one, you give up the ferro rod, and you don't have a place to put it because you don't have a corkscrew. I've got some extra corkscrew ones I could put in other Swiss Army knives, but you need the corkscrew to use it. That little guy right there. But other than that, as far as the tools and saws and a metal file and a hacksaw and screwdrivers and scissors, I feel like this has the better tool set out of any of them other than this. So I'm going to EDC this for a while. Maybe we'll come back in a month and see how often I actually ended up carrying it and what I like, what I didn't like, and all that kind of good stuff. But for something to just have in your pocket, they make ones that are the MX series that has the one-handed opening. The problem with that is then, where's my main blade? On this was, that's the saw. It puts the blade on this side, and it's got this piece that sticks up. And then when you're using it as pliers or you're using the other tools, I've read that they really dig into your hand. And so for me, I didn't want that. And the same thing with the pocket clip. I want this to just sit nice and flat. I want it to be slim down in the bottom of my pocket. The pocket clip sounds like a good idea, but it's kind of big and it does draw attention because it's a lot of metal sticking out of your pocket. I feel like if I'm going to carry this, I'm just going to slide it down in my pocket and then pull it out. It is what it is. It's not a one-handed opening. When you're carrying more of a tactical blade, you want to pull it out and be able to flick it open. Being that you need both hands on this thing anyway, there's not a huge advantage to having it in a pocket clip. You're still going to have to use other hands, and it's going to be a slow deployment. So for this type of tool, I'm fine with it not having the pocket clip. It'll make it smaller, easier in my pocket, and it doesn't have any hot spot. So anyway, that is the Victorinox. One of the guys on the Aprilia forum in the off-topic area goes by the name of Toe Cutter. Don't know what his real name is. Don't know what toe cutter means, but anyway, good chap. He's into knives and was like, you got to check out the Swiss tool. Do a review of that. I was like, I started with the cheap one. Then I was like, well, maybe get a little bit nicer one. Then I was like, oh, God damn it. I just go buy the goddamn Swiss tool. I didn't get the MX clip that he wanted, but I did get the Spirit X, which is pretty dang close. So there you have it. I like it a lot. I really do like that. That's just a cool set of tools. And it works really well as a knife and scissors. And all the things that I love about this, in a similar package that's actually more comfortable to hold and use. And all the blades are locking. None of these are locking. So if I were to go to stab into something, I've got to hold it in a weird way because, again, the ergonomics. Your handle, normally your knife handle sits that way. Here, I've got to hold it sideways, perpendicular at a 90-degree angle, which is a little bit awkward. You can do it, but it is a little weird. But if I had to plunge into something, I got to worry about that closing. I don't have to ever worry about that on this one. Locks up pretty secure. Oh, it did pop open. Hey, you know what? That's a good thing I should add to some of these tests is how strong is that lock if I were to smack it on the back. So let's see, that is all the way up. Maybe it just didn't engage properly. That time I pushed it up. Maybe that's something that I'll do a lock test one of these days. I'll take some knives that I'm not afraid of breaking. I certainly don't want to break a $150 knife. I think under normal circumstances it would, but that maybe it just didn't engage properly. No? Apparently you can smack it and unlock it. So, all right, we're going to ding it for points on that. It's like, yeah, it locks, but it's not that secure. For normal use, I think it's fine, but a quick, sharp blow, I did give it a pretty good smack right there. It did cause it to unlock. Interesting. Oh, well, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Anyway, other than that piece, that's a little disappointing. but still more secure than not having it, I guess. So anyway, we're at 20 minutes on the dot. That's long enough. I've been yapping. So that is the new, well, new to me, the new Leatherman Spirit X.